You unlock Edward of Woodstock, the Black Prince in KVK 3, and in today's video, I'll be telling you all about him, along with pairs, talents, what skills you should get, and if he's even worth the investment. Okay everyone, if you're new here, welcome to the channel. I upload the best archer content for Rise of Kingdoms. This is like a part 3 to my series, where I go over every single commander in the game. Today, Edward of Woodstock. If you're interested in any of the other guides, links will be in the description and at the end of the video. In the other guides, I've gone over CID, YSG, and Thutmose. Anyways, Edward of Woodstock has the Archer versatility skill tree, and is unlockable in KVK Season 3. If you don't know what that is, and you don't know what KVK is, don't worry, you'll be in a KVK very soon. If you've already got Edward of Woodstock and you're migrating back, you can actually use him in Season 2, but he's unlockable in Season 3. Next thing about Edward of Woodstock is he is probably one of, if not the best archer commander until you reach Season of Conquest. Alright, so Edward of Woodstock's skills are actually quite unique, and I'm going to discuss them quite a bit this video just because they're a bit different. First, you've got the active skill, which is the highest active skill damage in the game of 2,500 direct damage factor. If he's the secondary commander, however, it's only 1,250. And when using the active skill, he reduces his own rage by 300. I don't like this at all. I'll go over that in a minute. Next skill, just 30% health and 30% march speed. That's great. It's on the map only though, so doesn't work when you're inside of resource nodes. Next, when troops led by this commander consist of only archers, which they should, deal 25% increased skill damage. And at the same time, archers deal 5% more damage to infantry. Fourth skill, when the commander's troops have 70% or more units remaining, they gain 40% attack when maxed and lose 10% defense. And then the final skill, for 2 seconds after using an active skill, all normal attacks and counter attacks deal 50% increased damage. Okay, so reading this you may think, wow, he's really good. And if you're in KVK Season 3 and you want to get like a 5-5-1-1 Edward of Woodstock, you're going to be loving life because he is really good in KVK Season 3. He's actually probably the best rally in KVK Season 3, paired with the specific commander I'll tell you about later. There's one issue with Edward of Woodstock when it comes to investing in him. He falls off so hard in Season of Conquest. Like, by the time you reach Season of Conquest, yeah, his damage factor is great. But in comparison to other commanders like Boudica Prime, who does just 200 shy of his damage factor, doesn't have an increased rage requirement, and doesn't lose their own rage, they absolutely destroy him. The worst part about Edward of Woodstock, in my opinion, is when his active skill, first of all, it costs more rage, which is already a downside, and then next, he loses 300 rage when he throws his active skill. It's horrible. It ruins his whole entire kit. If this was a normal rage requirement, or even just the normal rage, like the normal rage requirement it is now, and you don't lose the rage, Edward of Woodstock would be so much better. You would be so powerful when you use him. The stats he gives are insane. 30% health, 30% march speed, skill damage, damage to infantry, which is all damage, and then 40% attack. Stupidly high stats. Oh, and his expertise. But the thing is, first of all, the skill damage you won't really be able to benefit from if you're not throwing an active skill. And you can't really throw active skills with Edward of Woodstock due to the high rage. They're just going to run away. Next, the attack makes him a very, very squishy, so I like to call him Edward of Squash Stock. Also, he kind of looks like a squash. And then this as well, the final skill. 2 seconds after using an active skill, Mr. Squash Stock gets 50% more attack and counter attack. But you can't throw an active skill, so it kind of negates that. Now, before I keep hammering Edward a little bit more, I'll go over his talents. So his Archer versatility skill, and I'm going to go over my Boudica because she's got the same talent tree. The talent tree I recommend for Edward of Squash Stock is max feral nature, because he needs rage. He needs rage, guaranteed. Basically, I'll just show you from a fresh tree here. So you want to max feral nature, just straight up, just go down here, max it out, max everything. Then go over here and get razor sharp, because he needs rage. Any rage you can get makes him slightly more viable. I would go here, just get the extra health, because health is nice, and the march speed, because you really want to be chasing down enemies when you're using Edward. If you're rallying, it's completely different. And then you've got these extra 16 points, which I would just put into random skills, really. This is a pretty good one. And then here's some more attack. And where's the health? Yeah, here's the health. And then I will just put the last 3 either in there, or you could go Naked Rage if you don't mind taking a bit more damage and dealing a bit extra. Naked Rage is good if you're doing with like YSG, who I've got a guide about card on the top. So you can see here full quiver. So this is probably the best talent tree for Edward Woodstock in the open field. If you're rallying, however, I recommend something more like this. Full quiver, you get the rage here. Just get the rejuvenate and then go down here for the health. This is probably the best rally. You can argue about not going for... So actually, you don't want to get latent power. So don't get latent power and instead get the Naked Rage. Alright, so here is his actual best rally tree. Just right here. So you obviously you want to get Whistling Arrows because that's really good. And then you want to get Rejuvenate. Now you could still use this tree for rally, but I don't think he needs his active skill as much. Because if you're rallying, you'll be using a specific combo. Alright, now gear for Edward of Woodstock, quite simply put, is really the same as other Archer commanders, except I think one accessory he must have if you're using him in Season of Conquest is the Horn of Fury. Because once, as we've discussed, he needs rage. Everything about Edward of Woodstock is just getting him as much rage as he can, so he can throw it out of the window when he throws his active skill. Despite that complaint, he needs rage, so you want to have a Horn of Fury on him if you're using him in Season of Conquest. If not, and you're whaling KVK 2, 3, and you've got accessories, Dagger here, this is a good one. So Concealed Dagger, you want that on your Edward of Woodstock. And then I would either go probably Vengeance or Greatest Glory. Not Greatest... So here's the 3 you could pick. Either Vengeance, Pendant of the Eternal Night, or Greatest Glory. I don't know, I think maybe Greatest Glory is only Season of Conquest. But if you get Greatest Glory, then that's okay. And then I wouldn't get the Vengeance. So preferably you get Greatest Glory and Pendant of the Eternal Night. If you're Season of Conquest though, then just classic good old Ring of Doom and Horn of Fury would work. You could consider Horn of Fury and Concealed Dagger though, if that's an option. Also, another thing you could do if you're free to play, low spender, and you've got epic accessories, just Silent Trail and Delane's Amulet will be fine. The March Speed doesn't apply to archers. XP is useless. You can consider the ancient stratagems, but 3% capacity is not much. Call of the Loyal is like really early game, or if you're late game and you need a spare accessory like I've got on my Gilgamesh, you can consider Call of the Loyal. Okay, so now if you want to go for like equipment sets, if you're whaling, you just go full Dragon Breath set, so the bow, the chest plate, not the gloves, sorry, the gloves, and then the tassets, and then you just go with epics to fill in the rest of the slots. If you're full whaling or you just want a really OP archer set, full Dragon Breath, that's it. And if you're free to play, full epic revival set, plus down here you want to get the Cloud Racers and of course the Golden Age weapon. Okay, now Edward of Woodstock's best pairs. Okay, so this is going to be a bit tough to discuss because I hate Edward of Squash Stock. He's squishy. I don't know why, he's got so much health. Yeah, he's still pretty squishy. And he's got that, he loses that defense. That's probably the reason he's pretty squishy. Edward of Woodstock plus YSG, if you're in the field, KVK 3, is your best bet. You could consider, I guess, for the field, maybe Edward of Woodstock plus Mehmed. Mehmed's pretty good in the field, so it's an option. Now, if you're not thinking, you're thinking, I don't have Mehmed, then YSG, and if you've got a max YSG, even better. His second skill provides a boatload of rage, which is very, very good if you're using Edward of Woodstock. Gives you more attack, but the issue with YSG is he has no tanky stats. So putting him with an Edward of Woodstock, you're going to be extremely, extremely squishy. And that's the real definition of a glass cannon. Now, another thing with YSG and Edward of Woodstock is YSG really does want to throw that active skill to get as much damage in as possible. So you're lacking on that regard since Edward makes you lose rage and cost more rage. Preferably, you want Edward as the primary as well. The thing with YSG is he really wants to throw that active skill as soon as possible. However, YSG does increase skill damage as well, which is pretty good for Edward of Woodstock. Now, other combos I guess you could consider for the field. Edward of Woodstock plus El Cid is an option. I don't recommend it. And Edward of Woodstock plus Thutmose. I don't recommend either of those for the field past like KVK 3. If you're really, really thinking, I don't want YSG and I want to max Edward, which I highly don't recommend, then this is an option. Tamiris is now probably Edward of Woodstock's best secondary commander out of all the archer commanders, because simply put, she synergizes with him the best. So Edward of Woodstock reduces his rage, correct? So Tamaris, who doesn't want to throw her active skill because she's a bit weird, then they synergize quite well together because he's going to reduce his rage after he throws his active skill, taking longer for Tommy to throw her active skill, so you get more of the poison stacks on your opponent. Now this poison, of course, increases the skill damage they take up to 45% if you stack 15 of them, which is just insane, and increases her active skill damage. This is the only thing I ever recommend Edward of Woodstock with, ever. Otherwise he sucks. In my opinion, he's just Edward of Squash stock, little squash on his head, that's all he's got. He's really not useful in Season of Conquest. Even with his relic, which gives him more damage factor, making him, I think, the now highest damage factor commander in the game, again, means nothing because he can't throw his active skill. Unless he can throw his active skill, unless there's some commander that comes out and says, you start off a battle with max rage, which I doubt will ever happen, then he's useless, don't even touch him. Now, that being said, Edward of Woodstock, KVK 3, in your kingdom, you have to have someone with a max Edward to rally. He is the best KVK 3 rally, without a doubt. Edward of Woodstock Tamaris is just absolutely insane. Edward of Woodstock YSG rally is still usable and still pretty good. And now there's talk about Ramsey coming to Season of Conquest. I have a video about that as well. Him plus Edward of Woodstock in a rally would be nutty. Ramsey's like Edward of Woodstock KVK 3, absolutely insane rally, but that hasn't come or been confirmed fully yet. So we're not 100% sure when that will happen or how that will work. So really, Edward of Woodstock Tamaris, usable in the field, usable in rally, and the only way you're going to get it is either lots of money, lots of gems, lots of gold heads if you're a crazy free-to-play, or if you can win the Mightiest Governor for Tamaris, you can get her there, and also daily bundle, like I said, lots of money. So I wouldn't touch Edward of Woodstock at all if you're a free-to-play player. I think just look at him and think, wow, he looks pretty cool, but I don't really want to upgrade him. That's exactly what you should think. His little squash head just it's just not good for free-to-play players, so just don't touch him. So basically, if you're a free-to-play player, steer clear of Edward of Woodstock. He's not good at all. If you're whaling KVK 3, your kingdom needs you, then yes, you probably will have to max Edward. But then in hand, you also want to max your Tamaris. Now, if you're looking into other commanders, you could consider YSG, LCID, or even Thutmose as a free-to-play player. I wouldn't put gold heads in them, but I have a full guide on how to use these commanders, where to get them, all the details you need. There's a playlist on the end screen, which I do want you to check out, guys. Trust me, it's going to bring you so much value. Before I end this video, I just want to ask, if you guys are interested in some Call of Dragons content, where I talk about like some quick tips, guides, stuff I've learned from playing for about 3 days, let me know in the description, because I've really been enjoying the game. I think it's got something unique to offer. And so if you do want to learn more about that game, and you think that I can make some interesting content there, then just let me know in the description. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.